What's up, nerds? Back again. This video we're doing Chaos, and if you haven't tuned in before, we're going through all the Chaos cards released in Spiritforged and giving them a rating A, B, or C. A for the playables and format staples, B for the filler cards, and C for the unplayable rubbish and garbage. Let's get into it. First card is Black Market Broker. 3 for a 3. When you play a card from face down, play a gold gear token exhausted. Obvious fit into Teemo type strategies, but I don't think the gold gear token exhausted is kind of worth the slot. Solid on stats, but because the gold gear tokens enter exhausted, you're sort of investing for future turns, and already Teemo type archetypes has some energy cheats with regards to its legend. So unless there's something that we can do here to abuse, like the gold, other legends like Sivir and stuff already have inherently built in some advantage into their legend, and I don't think you need more with the gold tokens. So overall, solid card though. Let's give it a B. You might see it in some decks. Nothing special. Called Shot. This one got a little bit of hype because it's a card filter / card draw with repeat. 0/1 power for essentially a draw one of the top 2 cards of your deck, and you can repeat it. This one, I believe, is a little bit worse than stacked deck for most decks. For most decks will want to be playing stacked deck over this, but there are some configs that can abuse the repeat and get kind of 2 cards for the price of 1. Those are the decks that are focused around gold, like Sivir and so on, and Ezreal that can reduce repeat costs. So those 2 are the types of decks that I think are going to be playing Called Shot. The rest would probably opt for stacked deck in most cases, unless there's a specific reason that you want to be playing this. More combo type decks and stuff will probably want to be playing this because they don't mind about resource management so much as just hitting their combo. This one we'll give a B because it'll be in a few decks, but it's not overly powerful. I think just 2 power for 2 cards sets you back quite a little bit, and card advantage in this format isn't particularly well valued, I don't think. So we'll leave it as a B, B+. Next up, Corrupt Enforcer. 3 energy and a power for a 4 might. When I move to a battlefield, discard 1. When I win a combat, draw 1. Definitely just want to play Traveling Merchant over this. The fact that you have to discard first and then win the combat to actually get the advantage of this is all downside, really. No upside in case of a combat blowout. So I want to pretty much avoid putting this in any of the decks, I think. Even the ones that just want to fill their trash full of cards for things like Rasa and, you know, other things like Phoenix and whatever. Merchant just does a better job at that. So because of the existence of Merchant, this gets a C. I don't think it'll see any play at all. We've got Doran's Ring next. This is something that I think a lot of people undervalue. This card, 1 for a 1 might. The power in it though is when I conquer, discard, and draw 1. This favors like aggro strategies like Jinx and Draven, where you can, if you build a deck around it, play lots of cheap units and equipment and spells and stuff that can get out of your hand really quickly, and then this essentially acts as card draw in the same way that Merchant does when you move to empty battlefield with no cards in hand and you conquer it. The discard effect happens first and then you draw. So +1 on stats is not that relevant. It's mainly the card text here to refill your hand. That being said, it's not overly powerful, but there is going to be some homes for this card in the aggressive purple strategies. And so I personally really like this, but being realistic, I think it's just a B. Pay Porter. 4 for a 4 might. On rate, when I move to a battlefield, you may pay 1 chaos to move a unit you control to the same battlefield. Interesting mechanic. Don't see its applicability really, apart from just moving it in. If it's in base, you're just moving it in with this instead of paying the energy. The only utility is moving it from like a different battlefield to the one that this is at, which is pseudo ganking anyway. So you can pay one to give something ganking essentially, and move it into the same combat. I don't really see this ability being used very much. So if we discount that, it's just a 4 for a 4 might, and there's going to be too much contention for this slot. So this gets a C. Loyal Pup, 3 for a 3. When you defended the battlefield, you move me there. This is similar to the previous card in that some sort of like combat movement thing that isn't going to come up enough to justify the place in your deck. So I don't think this one's going to see much play either. C. I'm going to make the claim now. No one's going to play this really. Next up, Master Bingwen. 6 for a 6. Weapon Master. On rate. Solid card. I'm going to give this a C as well though, because when we're playing our 6 or our top end, we really want it to be doing more than just Weapon Master. We want something that can kind of remove units or swing battlefields or get us back into the game if we're behind, and this just doesn't do it. Next up, Overzealous Fan. 2 for a 2. When I defend, you may move me to an attacking unit to its base by killing it. This is super solid. This is for sure an A tier card. 2 for a 2 is good as one of the first turn plays, but this pseudo flash, or sorry, not flash, fight or flight ability is going to be awesome against fighting huge units. So you just, park it on a battlefield with some other units and you get a free kind of defense out of it. Synergizes really well with Draven Legend, and it's something that you're not unhappy to see in the late game as well. So when you draw this off the top, you can also just move into a battlefield and park this here to make it more complicated for your opponent to get over that battlefield. So because it's got the utility, the late game utility on a 2-drop, that's what makes this special, and it gets an A from me. Temptation, 2 for a move an enemy unit to a location where there's a unit with the same controller. Repeat 2. It's kind of like a fight or flight in that you can push stuff back, but it's got a limited scope in that you need to have a unit in their base to push something off a battlefield. You can also use it as a pseudo charm in like bringing things into battlefields, although that's a bit smaller of a use case. And then the repeat 2 for doing it twice is kind of nice to have, but I don't know how often that's going to come up. I think the downfall of this card is that it's too limited in its scope with the requirements around having other units there, and there's going to be situations where they've got one unit on the board and this is just a brick and can't do anything. So because of that, you don't really want to be playing cards like this. It looks cool and it looks like an interesting combat trick, but if you notice, it doesn't have reaction, doesn't have action. You can only do this on your turn as well, so this gets a C from me. Next up, Treasure Hunter, 2 for a 1, and when I move, play a gold gear token exhausted. Now, Treasure Hunters underrate if you look at the cost and the power. The cost and the might. But getting a gold, it's not super valuable, but there's a ways you can abuse it. So this will find its home in a few different decks. Things like Siva, I think, might want to run this. Maybe some Yasuo builds where we can abuse the move multiple times with things like Tide Turner and Yasuo's legend ability and so on. You can stack up some gold pretty quickly and then make your top end not as punishing. It's not super impactful early game and gets run over by pretty much any other unit. But there is some upside to it. We've just got to figure out the best way to abuse this card. It's getting a B from me. We'll see it around. It's not super strong, in my opinion, and people will try to abuse it to get lots of gold, but I think the gold is being overvalued by the market at the moment, and it's not as beneficial as people make it out to be. So B for Treasure Hunter. Next up, Ancient Warmonger. 5 for a 4, accelerate, and it has assault equal to the number of enemy units there. This looks like it's designed to get over things like Azir and Victor and Hook Darius type token strategies. This will depend on the prevalence of those in the format as to how often it's played. I don't think for 5 energy and 4 might that we're going to see much of it in that kind of mid-rangey slot. There's a lot better things you want to be doing with those 5 energy on those middle turns. And yeah, even on rate, it's not even that solid. So I'm going to give this a C. I don't think we're going to see much of it. I know it's a bit harsh, but it just doesn't have the text box to support being played, I don't think. Okay, Beast Below, 7 and 2 for an 8 might. When you play me, return another friendly unit and an enemy unit to their owner's hands. The rate's not bad. 7 energy for an 8 might, even though it costs 2 power. The idea that you can bounce one of the enemy units is awesome, but remember you can only put this trigger on the chain if you've got a valid target for your other friendly unit, which is a little bit of a downside to this. Will it see play? Probably not. If so, maybe a sideboard card or something for problem huge units that you want to get rid of. But yeah, C for the Beast Below. Going to be decisive. Boost of Swiftness. 3 for a 2 might equip, and it gives ganking. As I said before, ganking's kind of a little bit more powerful once this format comes out. So this will see play. It's definitely not like a 3-of type card. It's not super powerful in that respect, but it's a good utility card, and we'll see its place in a few different decks. I think it even might creep in as a 1-of or 2-of in certain Draven lists. I know I'm trying it out in Draven lists and it feels okay. So let's give it a B minus or even a B. The utility of gankings is a good enough payoff to include it as a 1-off or 2-of in some lists. Next up, Cull equipment. 1 for 1 might, and when I conquer, play a gold gear token. As I said, gold isn't. It's a kind of key mechanic of this set, but it's not what everyone thinks it is. I don't think it's not as valuable. I mean, it is upside, right? But whether or not I want to be committing a card just to be getting a gold when I conquer, it's not even like when I move or anything like that. So not guaranteed. There's better equipment. I'd much rather play the Doran's Ring over the Cull to potentially get card draw over the gold. As card draw is worth 1.5, I think gold's worth about half a point on conquer. So I think this is strictly worse than Doran's Ring. We'll leave it there. I'll give it a C. Factory Recall. Return a gear to its owner's hand. This is the kind of variant of acceptable losses from the first set. So we've got targeted gear removal, which is awesome, but it only removes it back to the owner's hand. Action speed, exactly what we want. Can see it being abused with things like invert timelines, where you can return stuff, rebukes and factory recall gear and stuff to their owner's hand, and then just invert timelines it away to get it in the discard pile. It is an option. It's not a great option. I'd much prefer to pay kind of 3-4 energy to just outright remove the gear than returning it to owner's hand, because a lot of the gear that's actually playable is pretty cheap to play anyway. You can use it for combat blowouts, which gives it some utility. We've got to find which decks this is really good against to abuse it. It might be things like Ornn or like the Camel variants, the President strategy variants. But time will tell. I'm going to give this a B. We might see it in some sideboard slots. I kind of like the idea, but I'd be looking for something better in purple in the next sets to replace this if possible. Next up, Hard Bargain. 2, counter a spell unless its controller pays 2. Repeat and reaction. So when this card first came out, I was pretty high on it. Coming from a Magic background, it looks like something like Mana Leak-esque type card, and which is super powerful. The only downside is, well, not the only downside. The main downside is that the way the format's shaping up, the combat tricks are going down. Things like you know, Discipline and Cleave and Blood Rush and all that will not see as much play, and instead people will be opting for equipment, which this can't hit, which means that there's a lot less targets for this in combat scenarios. Doesn't hit any of the main gear, and the only things you're really looking to blow out with this Hard Bargain are things that your opponent will tap out on, which are either things like Grand Stratagem, Imperial Decree, those type of bigger top end spells if you want to get value out of it. And if they know you have Hard Bargain, they can play around it reasonably easily. So I think this is too narrow. If it said, if we had a way to counter gear or something like that, this would be huge. But because we can't, and because of the things I've just said, I don't think this is as good as it looks on first impression. So I'm going to give this a B-. It's a borderline unplayable at the moment, I think. I know many of you will disagree, and we'll probably try it out in a few decks, but let me know after a couple months or something where you end up with it, because I think it's not that good. Next up, Harpoon Squad. 4 for a 4. When I move from the battlefield, give me +2. On rate, it's okay. It's competing for a bunch of other stuff, and the ability is too narrow. So Harpoon Squad gets I want to say C, but I'll give it a B- just because it is okay on stats, and there may be some Yasuo-esque things that you can do with this to make it a bit stronger than what it appears. Windsinger, 2 for a 1 with an inbuilt gust effect and hidden. Unit with a gust effect is really cool. I'm happy to pay 2 for a gust and get a unit to potentially score a point or even hide it. The rate is really, really good. If you compared it to last set, it's awesome. But I think Gust as a whole in this set is a lot worse because of the units are going to be bigger because of equipment. So being able to utilize this is going to be a lot more difficult. If you're lucky and you draw it on turn 1 and you get to Gust their Treasure Hunter or something like that, that's a bonus. But yeah, it's not something you're going to reliably get value out of. And so the stocks of this are down in my view. I'm going to give this a C. It's not playable because most of the time it's just going to be 2 for a 1 and you're not going to find targets for it. It might work in something like Ezreal. So if you've got the ability to minus might with things like Frost Touch and so on, and then flip this and return it, then you might be able to get some more value out of it, but it's a little bit too conditional, a little bit too situational for me. So C. Edge of Night. I'm actually quite excited about this one. It's a +2 gear that you can play at reaction speed from hidden and attach it to a unit. So it's kind of like Quick Draw, right? If you compared it to something like Longsword. Longsword costs 2 and then costs 2 energy and a power, and you get a +2 equipment. It's similar sort of vein, but you don't want to use this one really as like a combat trick. I mean, you can, but the idea with this is that you tap out on turn 2, move your turn 1 play into a battlefield, play your turn 2 play, and then recycle a card to hide this on a battlefield, and with the sole intent of just flipping it and attaching it to a unit. If you get combat bonus out of it, awesome. And if they move to that battlefield and you flip it and you win the trade, then that's amazing. But really all you want to do is just flip it as soon as you can and attach it to the unit, and you've got a +2 might for 1 recycle that doesn't cost any energy, and you can tap out all your energy to play something else on that previous turn as well. So in terms of rate, it's really, really good. And I think this is a bit of a sleeper card, and you'll see a lot more of Edge of Night in the lists that are coming out over the next few weeks. We got Fizz, 3 and a power for a 3 might. When you play me, can play a spell from your trash with energy cost no more than 3, ignoring its energy cost. Recycle the spell after you play it. This, if you're from the Magic background, this is kind of like a purple Snapcaster Mage. These effects are really, really powerful, and this is something that you want to grab your play set of ASAP and hold on until more sets come out, because the more cards that come out, the more targets for this, and it will make it stronger and stronger. In the current pool of cards, the things that you want to be fizzing would be things like Wages of Pain, or even like the Frost Touch, or even Stupefy is good value off this, right? Like it's a pseudo card advantage thing, and 3 for a 3, the power cost to get a free played card from your trash is definitely worth it. So this is the A tier card for me. We'll make it into a couple of lists in the current meta, but then also like a lot more lists in the future, I think. Aurelia Graceful, 4 for a 4, 4 and a power for a 4. Your spells that choose me cost 1 or a power less. This is contesting the green Aurelia for the champ spot unit for the Aurelia decks. The initial testing that we've done shows that this one is actually a little bit more powerful than the green one. And it looks like the green one is better at first glance, but when you play this with things like Discipline and On Guard and Aurelia's signature spell, they're all free, essentially. Like they're either 1 or nothing, and you can get like a whole bunch of different triggers from the Aurelia Legend and just dump your hand out and cause huge combat blowouts with it. So if you haven't tested this purple Aurelia in your Aurelia list, give it a go, because it's quite strong. I even give this the edge over the green one slightly. So I'll give it a B+. The only reason is, outside of the Aurelia archetype, I don't think it's very playable, so you can't just like splash it into a Draven list or an Annie list or something like, or a Civer list at the moment. I don't think it's got its home, but it does what you want it to do in that home really well. B+ for Aurelia, Alt Art for Aurelia, and we're up to J Medarda. Already huge cost for the might. So 5 and 2 power for 5. What does the 2 power get us? When you choose me with a spell, draw 1. Might find a home in something like Aurelia. When I see this, when you choose me with a spell, just playing Disciplines and On Guards on this to draw a card doesn't seem that powerful to me. You really want to be hitting it with things that target multiple things, like any sort of repeat type effects, to really kind of get some impact on the board, as well as getting the draw off this. And I don't think there's many cards like that in the pool at the moment. So I'm going to give this a C. I don't think this is playable in the near term, but it is a strong text. You're paying for it though, and yeah, we'll see where this goes. I'm not impressed with it off the bat, but I'm sure some of you can find a way to abuse it. Civ Mercenary, 4 and a power for a 4 might. Accelerate. If you spend 2 this turn, it gets +2 on ganking. The Accelerate is a kind of wash. I'm not super concerned about that. It's good out of the champ zone from the Civ decks, because the other Civ doesn't have Accelerate, so it's good for those tempo type strategies if you're building Civ around that. But if you've spent 2 power this turn, it gets +2 on ganking. Could be good, but the whole thing that doesn't appeal to me is that 4 plus a power plus spend another 2 power to get 6 is pretty steep. 6 might, even at 6 might, that's not a big unit in this format as I see it. Like, we're going to have some really big units with all the equipment and so on, and so I don't think this is going to be super impactful. I'll give this a C. I'm harsh, I know, but I'll give it a C. Spirit Wheel, 2 energy for gear. When you choose a friendly unit, you can pay 1 and exhaust this gear to draw 1. Now, I like these effects. Drawing 1's not bad for a 2 energy investment. The fact that you got to pay 1 each time to do it is only giving you kind of half a point of net benefit every time, since drawing's like probably 1.5 energy evaluation, in my opinion, which means that you're kind of looking at 4 draws or so to kind of pay back the card and the energy cost that you've spent to do this. Now in Aurelia, this means that you're putting this in an Aurelia type deck where you want to go long game. Otherwise, I just much prefer something like a Discipline or On Guard or some combat trick instead of this. So yeah, it depends. If we can milk this for multiple turns, then it becomes good. Otherwise, not so much. So because the games are going to be short, I think this isn't going to see too much play. I like the effect. I just don't see that it's going to make it into too many decks. So I'm going to give this a C as well. Next up, we got Switcheroo. 2 energy, 2 power for swap the mights of 2 units at the same battlefield. And it's a hidden action. I'm really high on this card. I for sure think it's an A tier card. Many people disagree with me, but once you play it a few times, to me, I would make the argument that it's strictly better than Rebuke, and it often reads win this combat. So it puts the opponents in weird situations where even your 2-drop, you can just push a overzealous fan into a battlefield that's being guarded by a Mundo or a Watcher or some Orn or something like that that's massive, and you can play Switcheroo and trade out with something 10 times its size. That value is like really big, and that it kills the unit is also massive. Rebuke, sometimes you're forced to use Rebuke in spots where they can just slam it again. But Switcheroo makes it kind of an outright trade. And it works in like all sorts of weird niche scenarios and things that you'll come across, things like making Soraka's might equal to the lowest might on her side of the battlefield, so she can't save anything, and random stuff like that. Most of the time you want to be playing this as a hidden, but you can, due to its sort of cheap energy cost, just slam it from your hand as well. So I'm going to give this an A. You'll see more of it as people start to appreciate how strong it can be as a combat trick. Next up, Vex, 5 and a power for a 5 might, and while I'm in combat, friendly spells are cheaper and enemy spells cost more. Really cool effect. Do I want to be paying 5 and a power for a 5 might that's sort of situational? It really just like is making a combat easier for you and more difficult for your opponent. and it's just one combat. So I don't know. It doesn't impress me. On rate, it's probably okay, but there's no way to really abuse it at the moment, I don't think. Especially since it says friendly spells and not like cards. Like you can't play your quick draw equipment and stuff at a discount. So looks kind of solid, but I can't see the application, so I'm just going to put it in the B bucket. Downwell, 8 and 2 power. Return all units and gear to their owner's hands. If you haven't seen this card, it is oppressive in the Downwell any list, the control type variants, where they will play Downwell, return everything to their owner's hands, and then play the purple any to get this back, and then rinse and repeat and just lock you out. It's the first kind of prison archetype that we've seen, and this is the staple card of it. It's I really dislike playing against this thing. It's just dirtily and annoying, but rant over, it is quite powerful. Unique effect. We'll see some play in some prison type decks. I'll give it a B plus. It's got one home at the moment in that list, but what it does really well. So B plus for Downwell. Purple Draven, 6 and a power for a 6. Deflect. First time I win a combat each turn, you score a point. When I die in combat, choose an opponent, they score a point. 6 for 6 is already not bad a deal. But the big key part of the text here is the first time I win a combat each turn, you score a point. This is awesome for getting you back in the game from when you're behind, and cards like that always need to have you need to have a good look at them and say, how can I abuse this? Because the Draven strategy is aggressive, but sometimes it can get behind if it misses, and this is the way to get back into the game. So the more and more I play this card, the more it impresses me. You can obviously abuse it with things like Ride the Wind and the movement type shenanigans like Fight or Flight and so on. And yeah, I think it's a powerhouse. I'm going to give this an A. It's definitely up there in probably like the top, I'd say the top 20 cards of the format. Next up, Ezreal, Purple Ez, 3 and a power for a 3 might. When you play me, discard 1, then draw 2. That already is powerful in itself, a merchant-like effect that replaces itself. And then the optional additional costs you pay are cheaper. So this makes things like Cold Shot or the optional abilities on things like the Frost Cub free, and also all of your repeats and stuff like that on Frost Touch and Bellows and so on. So super solid unit. I think this one's going to be played in more decks than just Ezreal, and because of that, it's definitely an A. And the text box makes it unique effect, card draw. What more do you want? It's all round good unit. Last Rites is the last card. 3 for +2 equip. When I conquer or hold, you may play a unit from your trash. The equip costs a little bit more expensive. It's still the chaos, but you got to recycle 2 cards from your trash to equip it. I think this is kind of going to be like a combo piece for some decks. You really want to synergize this with on play effect type creatures or units, and we don't have that many of them at the moment. And so I think while this is unplayable-esque in the current format, this is definitely one that's going to go up in stocks as the next 3-4 sets come out. So I'm going to give it a C. It has the potential to be an A tier card though. So grab your playset, tuck them away, and wait out until the next sets come. All right, that's it for Chaos. I hope you got something out of it. If you disagree with what I said, chuck a comment down below. and catch you in the next one.